everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on future-proofing health system. We have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith, Madam Ali Rice, Mr. Marshall, and Mr. Kevin Jones. First, I would like to give chance Professor David Smith. What do you think about future-proofing health system?
Well, Sharif, thank you so much. I'm going to answer this question wearing many hats today. I'm going to wear my professional futurist hat, and I'm going to wear my healthcare hat with the time I've spent in the healthcare environment from being on innovation panels to producing products in the area. So to me, as I look at how do you future-proof health, one of the biggest things we see today is that the challenges facing our world are multi-dimensional, and healthcare has become multi-dimensional as well. Um, in the past, healthcare was often about being responsive to when you were hurt, when you had an illness. And in the United States, in our healthcare model, that was called fee for services. And what we're seeing today, for example, in the United States, is that we are now shifting away from fee to services and something that's called fee for value and fee for quality. And that is where I believe the future of healthcare in general is heading away, independently of how you pay for your healthcare. It's what can we do to keep the population healthy? What can we do to put in place global public health uh, initiatives that will solve the global public health problems? And the healthcare systems globally still need to change and evolve so that they are really able to handle what the future can hold for these. It's so important today that we need to find the tools to build resiliency. How can we be equitable? How do we make sure that the advanced technologies, the advanced diagnosis, and the tools are available to anyone? And we've seen today with the conflict in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, we've seen the results of the COVID pandemic, and they've dramatically changed the way we are looking at how to capture and analyze vast amounts of data. And understanding the data is one of the keys to where the future of healthcare is headed. And because we now have, as we've talked in the past, the fact that everything's digital, and we have this tremendous growth of sensors, particularly with the Internet of Things sensors beginning to come out. And a lot of those are targeted in healthcare and environmental and food, which all go hand in hand in the future of healthcare. Those are going to greatly improve our understanding of the human, of how we relate to the human biology. And now that we can throw into the mix advanced genomics and understand our DNA and where it's being give us the tendencies and things, it's important. But what's really unfortunate when you look at all of these huge advances, they're not all being harnessed when it comes to healthcare today. And we're seeing that. So it's important today to bring organizations and individuals from really different sectors, public and private, to drive this change, because only by working collaboratively can we embrace the potential of data to drive healthcare and policy and decision making. The future of healthcare really has to come back and be a place where science, where data, where public policy, where individual ownership, where the respect of the environment, the respect of the food chain, the ability to begin to harness the promise of personalized medicine will come into play. And this is what it's going to take to future-proof healthcare in the future. Because what we've learned, particularly as we've gone into genomics and the advances that we have with even sensors that can be implanted in our body and transmit results out to us in real time, when they're in situ. Uh, we're still learning a lot about how healthcare and how each individual body responds to it, and the roles of appropriate food, appropriate environmental conditions. And the greenhouse gas is one of the things we have to solve as we look at how to future proof healthcare, because it is a major contributor now to health distress around the world. So, Sharif, I hope that's a good opening remarks. I could talk the whole hour on this topic, but I think that's a good intro.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Madam Ali Rice, what you want
I
to add for today's discussion? Yeah.
Well, I think future-proofing the health industry first and foremost should look about prevention instead of cure. So we should look at kind of well-being and the conscious decisions we make for us and our families. So I think kind of the food we eat is really important, and how much exercise we have, and just general well-being, so that we're not stressed and we're not, so we avoid anxiety. And I think I did a little bit of research, and Finland looks like the country that's kind of, particularly in Europe, that's kind of setting the standard of personalised health, of the health industry. So I think what's fascinating is since 2020, the fact that even in England now, we have remote appointments to still see practitioners. I think, that's kind of eased and kind of gained efficiency for some things. So I think that kind of remoteness, and also being able to monitor certain health conditions through kind of digital technology is great too. And but I also think, so I've got an injury at the moment, and I've got tendonitis, and I think it's impingement syndrome. And basically, so I've looked at going through a self-referral, and it's going to be 6 weeks or 7 weeks before I even see anyone. So unless I pay, I've got to kind of let my body kind of heal. And I do think that there's a point as well when we don't always need intervention, that we need to encompass the body's own kind of mechanism to heal itself, and sometimes you just have to rest and not to, and let things kind of nature take its course. So I think there's a balance, but it's fascinating, and definitely in the UK and in the West, there's a kind of a growing older population that's going to need more and more kind of health support as well. So I think, at the moment, so in fact, since 2020, so I know for a fact that all of the, the education system, the health system, and the financial system weren't sustainable before 2020, and they're even less sustainable now. So we need to look at ways and means to make all of those sustainable for a growing population. So there's lots of innovations that need to come in to make that happen.
Thank you, Madam Kimberly.
Hi, and good morning or good evening, wherever you are. What an honor it is to be here to talk about this. And I agree 100% preventive is the way we need to go. Are we doing that? No, but I'll tell you what, some of the most amazing things have occurred since COVID. One of them that I really, really like is the online doctor, where you were speaking, Ali, just a minute ago, where it takes months to get a doctor's appointment, because I tried to schedule a doctor's appointment to see a specialist, and it was going to be months, or to even get my wellness physical, which we're required to do every year. I didn't know this, but if I book in March, I can't get that done until November. So there are just so many things that have hit the medical industry that have slowed it down for appointments. But there's an online med that they've started, and it's pretty good. A doctor will actually get online and talk to you. So you don't even have to go to like one of the little emergency centers or put yourself at risk or somebody else at risk if you've got something that might be contagious. But even if it's something as small as an eye infection, like I had recently, and I was traveling, a real doctor, physician came online with me. We took photos. He looked at everything, prescribed me something, and in days, I'm back on my feet again. I've used the online med doctor more than once this year because I travel a lot, and it's been great. Now, as far as preventive goes, to me, there are a lot of things we could do before we even get to the medical industry. Like, again, like you were speaking of, the foods we eat, like, water. Every day, people, we are made of water. Get it in you. I do hydration therapy once a month because it just adds a little more to that. But we could be eating better foods, taking better supplements, and preventing the problems that take us to the physician. Testing, you know what? I'm just going to tell you right now, testing and running, complete analytics of your body on a consistent basis will help you isolate problems and control them before they become a major problem. And this could be happening too, not just for you, the individual, but like if we're in a pandemic situation or where something is spreading, test and isolate. And we never did that. We really didn't do that here in the United States. The Netherlands, I think, did this. Iceland did this. Some of the other smaller countries that could have been completely wiped out were very intelligent in the process of testing and isolating for prevention. Prevention is big and huge. A lot of people don't want to invest the money in prevention. They would rather spend the money in correction. So there's so many things that we can be using artificial intelligence or science and technology to prevent, cleaning our air. I mean, look what happened when COVID happened. The air in India completely cleaned. You could see the Alps, right, the mountains, and you can see the skies in LA. Crime prevention happened too. The crime went tremendously down. And as you guys are all aware, in the United States, we're suffering from another problem, mass shootings, which are a mental illness. So let's don't forget that in our medical situation here, that mental illness is very, very big problem as well that we need to add to our preventive situation. Can we use computer science and artificial intelligence to do this? Absolutely, because all you're doing is collecting data and then generating thresholds and filters to give you the output that you need or desire. So that's what we need to be doing, is building more and more on those tools, providing more and more access and more convenient access. And convenient, I also mean time-wise. Don't make people wait a month or two. And I just want to add, insurance is to blame in the United States for the reason why people don't get the medical care they need and in time. I mean, literally, you have to, apply to the medical insurance and say, I have this problem. They found this problem on an x-ray. Can I go get an MRI? And then you have to wait 3 to 6 weeks for them to get back to you and say yes or no, and then you have to appeal. And, medical insurance is just, to me, it's the reason why medical care fails. Okay. And I will also add, it's the reason why medical care costs go up, because doctors have to hire extra admin to keep filing medical insurance to keep up with what's going to happen, but also the fact that medical insurance doesn't pay right away. My husband died a year ago. It took the medical insurance company a year and 2 months to pay his huge medical bill. I had to appeal every month because they kept denying. So medical insurance, to me, the medical insurance industry is the reason why medical care fails. And we need to change that. We need to get back to medical care, paying medical care directly. Maybe we can build an artificial intelligent Bitcoin system where money goes into there like an insurance, but it pays the doctors directly. It doesn't filter into the middle hand man pocket and make them rich and deny people the care they need. So that's my take on how we could be using artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Madam Kimberly. Mr. Kevin, what you want to add for today's discussion?
Yeah. Well, in the U.S., your zip code is a greater determiner of your health and your mortality than your DNA code. Some zip codes in neighborhoods make people sick. And, I'm working on some projects that actually get environmentalists who typically don't care about poor folks. In their history, they're genocidal, God bless them. They want a pristine wilderness. And to be in some project where cleaning the watershed where we live, Wananoa River, using the donut economics model, will actually improve the health of the people downstream who are the poor folks. And they were moved from what I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and tourism is our major industry. The Vanderbilts came here and built the Biltmore thing, which makes hundreds of millions a year, but they moved the Shiloh community to a place with bad drainage, no sidewalks, no trees, no anything. And Biltmore makes hundreds of millions, and Shiloh gets nothing. And so we're looking at a repair fund where some money from the tourism folks would go to that displaced community of Shiloh. And we're also looking at what's called the social determinants of health. And we've got a foundation to help fund a project to plant trees and put in sidewalks and good drainage, because it's a clearly measurable impact on health that you can get from that. But there's a relatively affluent small white town 15 miles upstream that's got a fine from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, because of river impairment. And so if we can work with them to collectively respond to climate change, there will not be runoff, so the people down in Shiloh will not be as sick. And so we're trying to link the affluent white folks who care just a little, because there's a lot more of them than white folks who actually care and show up and do a lot, with something that, if they can get their runoff under control through things called rain gardens, and we're having those folks actually come here to our farm today to do a strategy on that, to stop the runoff, and you need to sink it and spread it and slow it. And rain gardens are these things you can build that do stop that. Then the downstream effluent doesn't make the poor folks where you moved them sick. And so if they do that, they can lower that fee on their house upstream, the affluent folks, and also repair the health of people that they've been hurting without really thinking about it. So we're linking the trees and everything to repair the environment downstream, and also stop the runoff, stop the effluent that makes the river toxic for the folks downstream. So I think, to me, linking climate to environmental justice to social determinants of health is the way to go, because the folks with money don't give a shit, but they do care about the environment. So linking them to poor folks is where I'm working, and that's what we're doing locally.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marshall.
Hi, Sharif. I think that I think Kevin brought up a really good point about the climate issue. That, as everyone out here there knows, has followed me on these programs, our mission is climate repair and climate restoration, and at a large scale. One of the things that we do, and that to kind of tie in what Kevin and the other speakers have talked about, is that there are sets of goals that the United Nations has set up. They're called the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of them. The first 3 are really relevant to this whole topic. The first one is no poverty, and that goes to the space, to the concept of what Kevin is talking about. Poor people are often more ill and more inclined to be sick and create more cost to countries. And also, the second goal is to eliminate hunger. And how do you do that? Well, by improving the soil, improving the kind of food that's out there that was spoken about earlier. And the third thing is good health and well-being. That's the third target. There are more targets than this. But basically, those 3 top goals are goals that are relevant. And what they do is they enforce a concept that the UN members came together with, that everyone has a right to health. That's basically the fundamental right. And we need to see that not only in the developed world, but in the developing world, whether it's Malaysia or in Africa or in other parts of Asia, people have that right to health. And we recommend what our group is doing is part of not just bringing jobs and good paying jobs to the table. We also ensure that all our people that work for us, whether they're contractors or employees, have access to quality health care, and that it's not dependent, as was previously described, as that insurance pays for it. Since everyone has that right, it's our mission to ensure that that right comes through the revenue that we generate and the profits that we generate. So we seek out in each of our joint venture approaches. We don't just go out and create business. We form joint ventures in communities around the world. Each community has members of that community that are doctors, healthcare providers, educators, people like that. And again, we're all on the World Economy Talent Forum, and that this is an educational forum. So we encourage community engagement through education, and also through preventive care, as spoken about, as well as engagement and education of patients and providers. That's really critical. We also look for, as we all know, since 2020, the big pandemic that hit us. The last one prior to that, I think, in terms of scope worldwide, was 1917. So it's been a while, even though there have been other epidemics around. But a pandemic has hit us now. We're still in the grasp of it. So infection control emphasis is important, and improvement of staff productivity, especially with technology. I know some of our panelists spoke about AI and other technologies that are out there. So we engage with all those things in the group, in engagement that we're involved in at the community level. What we do is we take waste and we convert waste into materials that are no longer considered waste, that are actually a feedstock to help reduce and lower more environmental impacts. And that's a critical element, because when you lower environmental impacts, as Kevin pointed out, what you're doing is you're increasing the likelihood that people will have a better chance at quality health care, but also better health. And cleaning up water is one of our capabilities. We have 5 technologies that, when combined, actually take harmful algal blooms and convert them into profit centers, and at the same time reduce those harmful algal blooms so that people can have water for agriculture, industry, and even to the point of potable water if required. So, and the cost to the community is not the cost to the community. It's borne by the issue of reducing environmental impacts, and there are markets out there that need the materials that we generate, and they're willing to pay for it because they need to either create soil amendments or water, clean up water and sewage treatment plants and things like that, which we can handle. So those are the kind of things that I think we need to do to future-proof our health system, and that's what we're doing right now. We're practically future-proofing healthcare, and the way we do it is, again, through an engagement of combining our mission of climate restoration and climate repair, which is the overall 30,000 Google Earth view of what we're doing, and we need to do that around the world. And I ask everybody to join together with Sharif and his World Talent Economy Forum to help us engage in that process. And again, on today's topic, I believe we can future-proof healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Ching, what the interesting views you want to add through your fuzzy logic?
Yeah. Okay, today we are talking about future-proofing health systems. And, let me get very condensed. Okay, this is everything I say will be very condensed. Okay, so in the future, I hope that every medical provider should provide a statement of proof. Okay, what I mean is, I can only speak for in my own case. Okay, I extended my father's life by 2 years after doctors say there's no hope for him. I extend my mother's life by 10 years. Okay, also doctor have given up on her. also all my mentors by several years, especially Dr. Sadek. After he was incapacitated in 2014, and I brought him back so that he can attend his last keynote speech in 2016. Okay, so basically, I have helped all these people, and I have shaved 28 years on my own biological age. And I can prove that. Okay, it's done by other people. Okay, and it shows that 28 years. Okay, every doctor you should provide this statement of proof. Okay, this title is good, and also I think people start to use this title. Okay, so they're moving in this direction, but it's not going to be easy. Okay, you got to provide proof. You take care of yourself, you take care of your patient, and I also this biological age. Okay, they measure my biological age. I think this biological age is not really my biological age. I think it's my biological health. Okay, reduction of age is very difficult. Okay, the process it's very technical. I won't spend time to talk about it here, but I would say there's a difference between biology. My health was improved to the point that I have a 76-year-old body with the health of a 48-old person. Okay, that is basically what they measured. Okay, and something is not right. There's a basic from point of pole science, which I'm the founder. There's a gross lack of logic in the life science profession. Okay, they should go take some philosophy course, or they should take some scientific course, physics, to learn some basic logic. Okay, now I'm going to go into logic. Okay, yeah. So, but it's very simple. Okay, but this version is totally different from what you hear from the rest of the world. Okay. First, DNA is designed for permanent existence. Okay, let's see if you accept this. This is a logical statement. Okay, people die, but DNA does not die. Okay, it's supposed to last forever. Conclusive drug tests are not possible. Okay, science can be used for diagnostics, to see if this guy is sick or not, or what kind of disease. But drug test, okay, I want somebody to write a book. The title of the book should be "Where Are the Mice?" Okay, quotation. Okay, all these people who are famous, they use mice as test subject. And they tested once, the mice just disappeared. Okay, what happened to them? Did they get cancer? How long did they live? Well, what is going on? In order to have conclusive drug test, you have to carry this test to infinity, which is not possible. Therefore, conclusive drug tests are not possible. Okay, but while we are still doing everything, okay, here comes fuzzy logic. Sharif and the Marshall will see my point. Okay, you see, this fuzzy logic allows solutions when the range of validity of the solutions are specified. Okay, in other words, you do a drug test, you say I only did it for finite time. Okay, it's not valid. Okay, because DNA goes to infinity. Okay, but you need to say it. Okay. Also, if you do a calculation in economics, you determine price. You say I did a finite spread analysis. You specify the time. Okay, So people know what you are doing, okay? Because usually people cheat with the time beyond the finite time. So they can come up with any answer they want, okay? Pulsar is the only company come up with a deterministic system. We take the calculator to infinity, according to Kenneth Arrow Gerald book. Okay, so there's no way to cheat. It's a deterministic system. Okay, so this fuzzy logic come to the rescue. Okay, all these things we have done, okay, they're not totally invalid. Okay, but the range of validity must be specified. Range of tolerance must be specified. So therefore, drug tests must specify the period of effectiveness. Okay, they test it. They use a drug. They test somebody. It lasts 5 years. It looks okay. Then they should say that. Okay. If then after they have 10 years, they should also record that. They'll also show the statement of proof that it happened that. However, the effective DNA should involve infinity. Okay, unfortunately. So in other words, today's life science, I really thought they know what there's really lack of logic. I tried to introduce our complete automated software to them. Okay, DNA is just programming 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, program 1, 2, 3 in a complete automated software system. Okay, which is identical to the DNA biological system. But they refuse to accept it. Nature's editor just initially they want to entertain, but ultimately they just couldn't take that. Okay, this is very simple logic, and there's no way for them they are not ready to understand it. They should accept computer science, but they had big fight with computer scientists a long time ago. But today, computer scientists are doing it by themselves. Okay, very possible they're going to surpass the life scientists. So this is a point that I personally experience. I need to mention this. I give them everything we feel that it's pretty much all rejected based on lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
So as experimental verification of drug tests is not possible, health systems should be based on faith. Okay. Future-proofing health system should be replaced by faith-based health system. What I mean by this is really quite simple. It does not have much to do with religion, but it talks about faith. Okay. 3 major beliefs. Okay, 3 major faiths. The first one is Western medicine, which is based on science and experimentation. The second is Chinese medicine, based on experience. Okay, so this difference between experience and experimentation. I would believe experimentation is much more advanced than experience. So I would say anybody follow this too. Chinese medicine claim to solve all kinds of problems, but most people still trust Western medicine. Then the third one, which I propose, is natural medicine, okay, which whole science medicine, which I initiate. Okay, in whole science medicine, I'll give you a few very simple examples. For example, allergy. Okay, the medicine for allergy is bee propolis. You take bee propolis, almost all my friends cure the allergy. Okay, those allergies are career threatening. Okay, people have those allergies. Once they get to the stage, near 50, 60, they just couldn't work. You see, but bee propolis to take care of them. Okay, you take any other Western medicine, it will cure you first few times. Then later on, it becomes less and less effective. Another thing we take is elderberry. Okay, we take elderberry, almost reduce the sickness from 8 days to 2 days. Okay, it's almost 80-90% effective. And almost every kind of common illness, both science medicine has a cure for it. So basically, that's the summary of things. But I need to mention one thing before I leave the first. You see, my own contribution recently is this concept of DOMS, DOMS. It's delayed onset of muscle soreness. Okay, this is very strange. Why is there a delay? Okay, the body, you exercise sort of intensively. Then after 3 days, you have these storms. Body makes you feel very tired. Then you have to go down and rest. Okay, I have studied this for many, many years. So I know it's probably due to micro tear in the muscle. The micro tear does not cause a zero level injury. If people who are in accident, they know zero level injury, first level injury, second level injury. Second level injuries, you have to rest for 2 weeks or more. You see, first level is you rest for a couple of days. Okay, zero level injury, you don't really need to rest too much. But you do get these storms. Okay, why is this delay? I think the DNA is very intelligent. Even it's very intelligent, it has to take some time to prepare. Just like you want to repair a road, you have to prepare all the material you need. And you have to draw up the graphs to show what you want to do, make a plan. Okay, the body make a plan in 3 days. Then they come in and they start to repair you. Okay. I had this for 5-6 years. This is like a clockwork. But recently something changed after the COVID. I tend to have DOMS quite frequently. Okay. Every time I have any exercise, I have some DOMS. Okay.
Sir,
my suspicion is maybe my stem cells.
Sir, in between 1 minute, you need to finish, sir.
Yeah.
Because we have more
stem
speakers.
cells than most people. I need somebody to measure my stem cell density. Okay, stem cells for replacement, while the repair is done reprogramming. In other words, methylation, change. You have different ways to repair the body. Okay, repair is not sufficient. Okay, in order to live permanently, you have to have a replacement of all your body cells. Okay, so one thing come into common knowledge is moon jellyfish, okay, which produce enough stem cell to replace everything in its lifetime in order to survive permanently. It does survive permanently. So there are examples of that, and I don't think I can do that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have our friend, Mr. Jason from Ageless Partners. He's CEO. So he's a extremely talented, and he has a lot of interesting solutions for the developing world. Hopefully, he can share some interesting insight from the industry.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Sharif. Appreciate that. Yeah, I thought, definitely some interesting points across the board from everyone. Yeah, maybe I would just touch on a few of the points that were said first, and then kind of give my high level view. I think it's definitely a multifaceted problem that we're dealing with. Everything within the healthcare field, there's a huge economic element that everyone's aware of, and you really got to follow the money. I mean, when we see Pfizer make $24 billion in a quarter during the pandemic, they were able to fast track a therapeutic in 18 months. So we know it can be done, yet somehow it's not really happening. We're, like Hugh was kind of alluding to, we have these slow, rather inconclusive tests that just don't really help people to some degree. And it's all interrelated. I think Kim was kind of alluding to the rich poor divide a little bit, and it's exacerbated in the healthcare industry too. And really, it's just a system that just hasn't worked for people. I mean, you go into a doctor, or even just like scheduling it, getting what you want out of it is definitely not always working great. So they're definitely falling behind while technology is getting way far ahead. So policymakers really just can't keep up. It seems like they can't seem to adapt their current logic and current systems to alter the rules on some level. But in terms of like, future proofing the health system and these other issues that were brought up, everything from gun violence to climate change and things like that. I do think that using AI as a tool is definitely going to help. Really, just more cameras, more sensors, and really just more minds coming together. That's definitely going to help. And so there's that side of it, and then there's the side of really just like how do we diagnose faster and more accurate. When you look at the numbers, a lot of these doctors, there's like mistakes that are made a lot. So we really need more tools and more people willing to use those tools and to advance the way that they've done things. Because a lot of people, if they've done something for 30 years, they don't want to necessarily alter the way they do it. And I think that mindset has to be altered. So there's definitely, I think the main thing to future-proof our healthcare system, we need a perception shift. Like everyone thinks that certain things are killing people or there's all these issues, but when you look at it, aging is the number one killer, pretty much. I mean, because of aging, everyone on the planet will die. So that, there's definitely a disconnect at this point in the healthcare system on priorities, figuring out how do we target these underlying mechanisms versus just curing a disease after the fact. I can say more, but maybe I'll start with that, Sharif. That's good enough. So.
Thank you. I want to go for the concluding remarks and some important remarks. We need that how we can improve policy for healthcare system. It can be global policy. In the COVID-19 situation, we find developed world, developing worlds, everyone has a lot of challenges for healthcare issues. So, Professor David Smith, what's your concluding remarks and what you want to add? How we can develop better policy for the global community?
Mr. Reeve, I really appreciate everything that's been said, and just listening to all the content, it reinforces the idea that the future of our healthcare and our healthcare systems are a multidimensional problem that we have to work on all the levels, as you've talked about. We need to look at ways that people can become more involved. I'm so glad that Kim mentioned earlier the involvement of the individuals. And I have a good friend who I'm actually on the board of his company that is him trying to do that. They're going back and using the concept of like the farmers who came together to build barns for other farmers. If you look over in England where Ali is, there's many places where the trades banded there together to jointly fund money to support each other's health care. And many ways like that, that takes the payers out of the equation, be it a private commercial payer or be it a single payer system like the government. And that is one way that we will actually begin to encourage more affordable health care. And that same approach is one that can help us, as Ali mentioned, drive the prevention. The goal, as has been stated, is you don't want to get sick. And as you has talked about, the goal is to try to be biologically younger than your real age. And I hope that we all can begin to do that. I have some friends tell me that my mental age is still back in my 20s. And I hope that's because that I enjoy having fun versus not being very intelligent. But you tend to begin to see that a lot of the personal choices you make are things that will affect your health. And we should be encouraged by our policymakers to do more of this, to begin to have advantages. The company I was talking about, they believe that if you were to just take 1% of your income and put it into a shared account, that 1% could fund health care across everyone who contributes to that without a big penalty. And that's part of the future of healthcare. But the reality is, we know is not everyone takes care of themselves. The reality is, we also know is we have accidents, we have trauma. And so the applying healthcare to help people recover from trauma, to help people recover from diseases, is an important part. And I believe we're making great progress. And we continue to make progress. But in the last 2 years, the life expectancy globally has actually gone down. And part of the reason the life expectancy globally has gone down is not because of technology, but because of the environment and how the environmental concerns are affecting our health. So again, it is a complex system, and all these things have to go together. And your explicit question, Sharif, about what can we do in policy, we have to in policy realize that while most policy is directed regionally, but to maintain the future health of the world, we need to act globally on the policy on so many different levels. One of the real positive things of COVID was that we saw how we can fast track solutions to help with it. But even the more positive thing of COVID was how we saw that developing nations, developed nations all came together to try to support each other. And one of the definings of the future of healthcare is actually developing nations are in many ways more suitable to advance in the future of healthcare because of their lack of legacy infrastructure in healthcare. And it's with the dramatic changes in healthcare, they are going to be faster to react than the large developing nations when you look at how that can be deployed. It's easier for me to deploy an artificial intelligence system with all the local characteristics in Malaysia than it is for me to do that in the United States or in China. And that is just something that we have to realize, and we need to learn from what we can do in the developing nations to help us adapt policy in the larger nations to be able to solve this real problem of future-proofing healthcare. But Sharif, thank you so much again for letting me be part of this.
Thank you, sir. Madam Ali Rice, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Okay, well, I'll go back to my beginning. So prevention's much better than cure. I think mind, body, and spirit's really important. So we need to see all three aspects of those. So kind of well-being and happiness is really important. And that's kind of conscious decisions about what we do with our lives, how we nurture our children. And I think that kind of connectedness, so that it's, it's kind of ensuring that there's remote appointments, but you can see a specialist, so that it cuts down time of waiting, weeks, so that you can kind of have a condition that's, that can be dealt with initially, but can become chronic if it's not seen to properly. So I think, I think kind of trying to, and also kind of finding where best practice is and replicating it, so that it's, that's always, and the interconnectedness of things, so that education, obesity is huge in the UK. So at the moment there's a lot of obese children that will probably die before their parents, and I think Malaysia actually has got more obesity than any other Asian country because of the Western lifestyle they've adopted as well. So I think those things can be prevented, and I think one of the things that we need to do, which I say in most of the forums, is we need to look at the mistakes that the West have made and try and avoid making them in developing countries, because we haven't done things in the right way all the time. And some of I practice yoga, and some of the ancient philosophies of the Ayurvedic, that they make sense to me. So looking at, what's good for our bodies and kind of keeping everything open, so that we've got a good circulation, and we keep moving. So I think that, going back to being physical and not being sedentary is just as important. So I think I think going back to what we did before and being more active is really important, as opposed to, staying on a seat for, as a day, So I just think making conscious decisions is really important.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yeah, I think everybody's made some excellent points, and I just kind of follow up on all the speakers here that I think in terms of your question to David and everybody on the panel about policy, I think we've come up with some really good sustainable development goals through the UN that are appropriate for both developed and developing nations. And if you look at them, they're all based on each goal has its own mission. But what's interesting, what ties it all together is the climate crisis and how to ensure that healthy lives are healthy and promote well-being at all ages. And just to pick up on what David said, David Smith, before the pandemic, there was tremendous progress made in improving health of millions of people around the world. And significant strides were made in increasing life expectancy, in reducing some of the common killers associated with child and maternal mortality. And many efforts were made and are still needed to fully eradicate a wide range of diseases and address many different persistent emerging health issues around the world. And I think that, mind and health, as was brought up, whether you're practicing yoga or some other mindfulness approach, I think is very helpful at the individual level. But at the policy level, we need to embrace the Sustainable Development Goals. We need to increase gender equality. We need to improve quality education, like we're doing through the World Talent Economy Forum. And again, we need to address these health issues. They all go to health at the end of the day, and well-being. So, Sharif, I think you've done a great job of bringing this topic to the table, and we need to do more. So, again, thank you very much for bringing this topic, and hopefully now that the pandemic is here, we can overcome that and get back to improving the quality of life of people around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Ching, what's your concluding remarks?
That came up on me.
Professor Ching.
Oh, Professor Ching. Okay. Well, in the future, all doctors should provide a statement of proof, especially about their own health. Okay, so now we got many ways to measure, your health, your biological age, so they need to prove that. Okay, that alone will give them, lots of change. So, if the health professional continue to reject post-science view this year, post-science will start to do it by ourselves, independently, and worldwide, so that we're not going to be constrained by the West medicine, which is pretty much money oriented. Okay, it's not in the right direction. Okay, so another word, to make a further discussion on this point, the technical point I mentioned, not to leave everything sort of halfway. So it's this thing about dorms. Is that I dance 3 nights per week. Okay, and I have to wait for the dorms to come. You see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the dancing, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for the dorms. Okay, so I only have 1 day rest. Okay, I've done pretty much all the exercise I can possibly do. And behind me is this behind me is a table tennis table. Okay, most expensive table tennis table. But I have no time to play any of this. My schedule is pretty much full into doing all the doing this dancing. So I would advise people, dancing is a good thing because it gives you happiness, especially if you're a dance idol like me. You check me out on Jump House Dance, you will find that people just love me so much. And they those I never realized they just people fans just love their idols. so, so you give them a lot of happiness, they want to give it back. So basically this feedback is very very interesting. So I would advise people to go in. I'm trying to promote this. I try to get everybody in the world to dance. Actually, I already start the dance movement because in 2011 there's a people in Los Angeles. They made a video on the shuffling. It's in party anthem, and that video was inspired by my dancing. Okay, there's some people in San Jose took my video and they sent it to Los Angeles, and the Los Angeles guys say, "Oh, this guy is doing shuffling," so they revive a 1980s dance, shuffling. So shuffling goes up, then Chinese had this ghost dance, then there's jump style. Everybody start to dance, but still, after a while, shuffling started to go down just like in 1980s. Then I have to go back, and every weekend I revive shuffling by my jump house dance, because jump house dance is based on science. It just make a person move like an animal instead of robot. People like to see athlete. They don't want to see this slow moving, robot. So I dance. When I dance, they get stimulated. People like to, there's a psychological phenomenon which says people like to, get inspired by other people's emotions. So basically, we are continue. I've invented dance which continue to inspire other dance. So this dance movement will continue constantly. I'm trying to train some of the people to do the jump out dance. The first candidate I want is Patrick Freeman. He's the grandson of Milton Freeman. So we are sort of in the family. So I just give you some, preview. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kim. What's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Oh, wow. So I'm just going to say the choice is yours, period. I don't care what policies the government put in place. I don't think they put policies in place for our well-being. They may say they are, they may think they are, but it's not. It is your individual choice. It is your individual choice whether you get up and you do preventive measures. Okay, so get up. Dancing is free and it's very healthy and great for the mental mind. One of the things that we did with Money Masters is we enforced and influenced financial fitness, physical fitness, and mental fitness. Those are the three top priorities, I think, that need to begin in education. And all of this needs to start in our education system, where they've kind of dropped it off. We just really don't get any of these things in our education. I'm not talking about high school. I'm talking about grade school. These three things need to just start evolving in our lives as if it becomes as natural as drinking water or brushing your teeth. But what we have learned is that if you become financially unfit, then you become stressed out. And then what? You become sick. And then what? You start spending more money financially on medical care and things like that. So these three things need to start evolving in our lives. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what policies government put in place. We need to take charge individually, and the choice is yours. We make the choices. Whether you like the choices or not, you need to get up. And instead of saying one day, say today is day one. And I'm going to make that choice today. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to start dancing, and I'm going to start getting financially fit, and I'm going to start getting mentally fit. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your excellent contributions. Yes, this is true that we have to develop our own plan. We have to develop our own strategy. Asia Pacific may be something different. If you come to China, like most of the business and activities managed by the government. So here is different story. We more depend on government. Example, Malaysian government people, healthcare and everything's government take care of these things definitely. So it's a different culture. That is the things we want to bring. Different culture, different view. Yes, we can understand the American views, but maybe there is a this is very important time that we need to think together how we can develop better world. Mr. Jason, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Yes, thank you. I think pretty much would second what Kim said. I mean, it's really up to the individual to take control of their own health and future. It's obviously good to have more support. Given the sophistication of our society, I know that we can do better, but it is up to the individual for them to do better and really to take charge, because a lot of people, they just they don't really care as much really until they get some kind of disease or some kind of issue. Then they start to care and they start to think about what they could do, rather than taking a preventative approach and taking a lot of action today. They really wait for tomorrow. So I think that individuals need a mindset shift, but also our whole society and civilization. And I think the future's coming quicker than people think. I think that we just have to get enough people on board with the vision we want to create, and I think that we can definitely create a better society, a better civilization, more prosperous and healthier future. It's going to take some effort. So thanks everyone for taking the time today to move that forward.
Thank you, everyone. This is really great session, and I'm sure we have many audience from government agencies. The coming month, actually, we are organizing very important conference with central bank, with energy ministries, with prime minister office of different countries. So I want to invite you all in our interesting session, and I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with your government, with corporation, and with academy. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Sharif.
Bye bye.